And I want to thank the organizer for inviting me to speak in that conference. I just want to introduce me in a few words. So I am working in the General Commission for Sustainable Development, which is in charge of, which is a department of the French Ministry of Ecology, Sustainable Development and Energy, and the General Commission for Sustainable Development, which is in French Commissariat Général au Développement Durable, is in charge of coordinating and monitoring all public policies in France in the field of sustainable development. I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer, but I am an urban planner. So I've been working with cities for many years at the regional level, at the national level, and in cities in other countries than France. And so my presentation will focus on the implementation of innovative projects in cities. First, I will give you an overview of what's going on in France. And then I will try to respond to the question of what is new for the city, what are the changes that are brought by the use of ICT. So just to introduce my presentation, I would like to say that smart cities, for the sake of smart cities, is not our concern. We consider that smart cities are a step on the path to sustainable cities. How? By optimizing natural resources management, saving water, capping electricity consumption at peak times, monitoring energy or water consumption, which was really well described this morning. By reducing CO2 emission, especially in the field of transport. By promoting shared governance. Shared governance is really a very important component of sustainable cities. And we see, and it has been also said this morning by different speakers, that ICT favor citizen participation and what we call in France this shared governance. Also, by contributing to make cities attractive, the fact that you have a good air quality, the fact that you have less congestion, good information networks is a very good way to attract private companies and so contribute to make cities very attractive, but also attractive for the inhabitants because you improve the quality of life and you make sustainable city, desirable city, which is something which is really expected from sustainable cities. So I will give you a sort of, I was asked to give you a state of the art of what is happening in France at the present time. So I will start by trying to explain you who are the stakeholders. So we have different stakeholders in France. I guess it's the same in the US. But first, the local governments. They play really a key role. I think you have seen the presentation made by the City of Paris and the City of San Francisco also. They are the one who starts the project and who impulse the project. They are the one who are responsible for the implementation of a project. So they really are the key actors. And what I would like to point out the fact that it is very important that exists a political will in the local government, because if you don't have a mayor or an elected person at a very high level who is very involved in all these projects dealing with smart cities, nothing will happen. So it's really very important that all the projects benefit from political support, because it's really, for me, a very important condition of success for the implementation of this project. Secondly, we have the national government. So I belong to the national government, so I can give you a little bit more information about that. France is used to be very centralized. It's less centralized, but still the national government plays an important role. Well, it plays, I must say, it can play three roles. The first role is as a regulator. to issue rules. For instance, in the field of energy, we have many rules, but also to protect private life, or to have standards. But more and more, the question of regulation is dealt at the European level more than at the French, at the national level. And also I wanted to just to mention the fact that standardization was said as being a very important issue when you are dealing with smart city, and I don't know if you know that, but there is a process of standardization and normalization which has been launched very recently, and at the international level, which is ESO, and there is a technical, we call it a technical committee, I think, which is called Management of Sustainable Cities, with a working group on smart urban infrastructures. And what I have seen is that the Japanese are very, very active in this working group. And I think we have to keep that in mind. And especially for the private company, it is very important to be involved in that process, because it might have a lot of consequences in the next future. So the national government also has a role of funder. So the funder, which means provide stimulus and boost the initiatives which are carried out at the local level. I will speak a little bit longer about that when I speak about the Investment for the Future program. And also facilitator is the third way of acting of the national government. So this is exactly what I have done for the last 2 years. Just to give you an example, we have provided a neutral place where cities, private companies, representatives from the French administration could meet and exchange about barriers, obstacles, and conditions to meet to enable the emergence and the implementation of innovative projects at the local level. And the feedback that we have had is that it's a very small action, but it was very useful, because usually these people don't have any place to meet without any business environment behind that. So now I will come back to this question of funding by presenting you the Investment for the Future initiative. So it has been very quickly addressed by His Excellency, the Ambassador of France, and it's something which is a very important initiative in France at the present time. So it was launched in the framework of a recovery plan. As you know, we have facing very economic crisis in France, like in other countries, and stimulate R&D was really one of the measures which was considered as a priority in the framework of this recovery plan. So a national loan was launched in 2010, and about 35 billion euros were collected from public savings. 3 out of 9 programs cover the topic of smart cities. Just to illustrate that, one program is called Digital Economy, with 4.5 billion euro, and it deals with smart grids, digital networks, broadbands and networks, and this kind of topics. The second program is Smart Cities and Smart Building. It's about 1.5 billion euro, and in this program we have the Cities for Tomorrow initiative that is coordinated by our ministry, and I will give you more information about this initiative in the next slide. And the third important program is about transport and mobility for the future, which is 2.5 billion euro, and it deals with topics such as ITS, electric vehicle, implementation of charging stations, car sharing, and all that. In terms of means of action, so we have had a lot of calls for proposal. Some of the calls were dedicated to private companies, especially like startup or bigger companies, and some of the others, like the Cities for Tomorrow, were dedicated. The target was the cities itself, and but most of the time it's a consortium with cities and private companies and researchers who made proposals about in Cities for Tomorrow. And in terms of financing, we have the government is delivering grants and also co-financing of projects through equity investment in local companies. For the Cities for Tomorrow program, we can say that about 2/3 of the total amount is given through grants and about 1/3 through co-financing of projects. So we started quite late compared to other countries, but there is a real dynamism at the local level, and many projects are on the tracks. These projects have been launched about 1 or 18 months ago, so it is really too early to see the project working and to see, because we are most of the time in the phase of studying feasibility studies, but we can hope that from next year we can have a lot of demonstration projects to show to people who will visit France and are interested in smart cities. So just to give you, I will just make a zoom on the Cities for Tomorrow program, which is a program which is coordinated in our ministry. So you have, just to give you some more precise information, 19 EcoCities, 210 actions, and 110 actions focusing on energy and industrial ecosystems. So just so that you can see on a map that a lot of French cities are involved in this program. And you don't see Paris, because Paris is a very special city, but you see some around Paris. You have Plaine Commune and Noisy-Champs, which is in the suburb of Paris. And you have big cities like Marseille or Lyon or Bordeaux, but also medium-sized cities like Clermont-Ferrand or Nice or Metz, for instance. So in terms of, I'm sorry this slide is in French, but I can make the translation. I wanted to give you a more precise idea of what type of actions are carried out in this program. So in terms of, you have the first is you have 12 actions dealing with development of urban transport, about 28 dealing with new alternative use of cars, 27 which are dealing with mobility, new services of mobility and intermodality, especially ITS and this kind of projects. And then you have 25 projects with public space and environment. And then the last, the 4 last are really dealing with this question of energy and industrial ecosystems. The eco-friendly urban design is 32 projects, so you see a lot of projects. Model building is 21 projects, 21 actions. Recycling of resource is 21, and energy system and urban management, in which you have smart grid project, is also 44 projects. So it's really the most important number of actions that are carried out at the present time. I'm not a specialist, so I don't want to go in detail. It's just to give you more, also to illustrate the kind of action, the field of actions which are concerned. So, as I said, you have eco-friendly urban design, what we call construction quality with innovative technologies and model buildings, resources recycling, which is very important in terms of materials and water cycle, new energy technologies, and urban management with intelligent network, lighting system, monitoring, and all that. Just this, I don't, maybe I will skip that slide. It's just also to show you the type of actions and which are in this energy and industrial ecosystem. So after giving you an overview of what is going on or what is happening in France in terms of smart cities, I would like to highlight what is new for cities and what changes are brought by the development of ICT. And what I will say is I am very happy to see that also some of the other speakers had exactly the same the same issues, so at least we share the same concerns about the future of cities. So the first change, I would say, is this systemic approach, which was highlighted by many speakers. The fact that we used to have very sectoral approach with the people from transport who didn't talk with the people from urban planning and who didn't talk with the people of energy. And now what is very new is that there is an integration between the different components of urban management, which is made possible through the development of ICT. And this has a lot of consequences on the management of cities, and especially in the, I don't know if there are any representative of city in the room now, but it means that the city, if you want that systemic approach to work well, you have to find a new type of organization in the city. And you need, for instance, to have a sort of chief of ICT, or I don't know how you could name it, who is very high in the hierarchy and who can make the coordination between the different sectoral approach. But if you don't have this kind of trans-sectoral direction, it is very difficult to have all these people working together. The second change is the fact that it's co-designing the project. I mean that innovation requires to have a public and private public and private sectors working together, to have researchers and practitioners working together. And this is really very new because in the past everybody was working on his side, and what is new is really that we learn from each other's experience. And that, and I wanted just to say a few words about this PPP question, because it's also something which has been mentioned here. I really believe in PPP, but what I think and what we think by seeing what's happening in the cities is that at that stage, I think that we have to invent new kind of PPP, because the traditional PPP in the field of water or in the field of energy, with the private company operating the system, doesn't work now. I think what we think is that the PPP has to start from the conception, from the design of a project, from the conception of a project to the implementation and operation of a project. And it's something which is quite new and also implies new ways of working and together, but it's something that we have to keep in mind because it will be very important for the operation of this project in cities. The third point, which is new, is new forms of governance. It has also been discussed this morning. What we call, I don't know if we say gouvernance partagée in French. I don't know if you say shared governance in English. But what is clear is that it's a way to involve all stakeholders, not only, and involve all stakeholders means the representative of the inhabitants, the representative of economic activities, all these actors, players who are involved in the operation in the cities are concerned and have to be associated to all the decisions. And also what is interesting is that we see new forms of democracy which are emerging at the local level with all these applications which give the opportunity to the citizen to react in real time and to inform, for instance, the city that there are dysfunctioning or that there are problems in the public, in the traffic light, for instance, or that there are problems on the roads. And I just want to let you know that these applications are not expensive and they work very well. But what we are facing in France is the fact that some cities don't want this kind of system to develop because they are not organized for that. If you have consumers or inhabitants which inform you that there is a problem on the road and you are not able to react very rapidly, it seems that your city is not efficient. So many cities in France are not yet sufficiently well organized to respond in real time to all the problems which are mentioned by the inhabitants. And so it's really a barrier that we have found in the development of these new processes. And last, what is new for the city is also the fact that they need a vision for the future. All the cities which are quite innovative in France, like Paris or like Nice or like Lyon, they all have started a sort of prospective view. For instance, there is a project which is called Lille 2030. There is one which is called Lyon 2040, I think. And this new, the fact that you are thinking in terms of sustainable city and smart city oblige you to think of what kind of city do you want for the future. And we see, most of the cities are now developing this exercise of future, not futurology, but future studies to see where do they want to go. So just to conclude, what I just want to say a few words to conclude. So first, we have learned on the move. I don't know, also, on apprend en marchant. Means that, as it was said just before, the first initiative or first projects were developed by engineers. I have nothing against engineers, but it was very sophisticated in terms of technology, but they ignored the ability of end users to appropriate these new systems and electronic devices. And so we have to change this, but to stop this very top-down approach and try to see, to find more, to give more attention to the needs and the behavior of the end users, and really start from what are the needs, how ITC can help to solve some of these needs, and then implement the project. And I just want to give you the example of Nice, which is a very innovative city in the south of France, and they have started many projects in different type of projects related to smart cities, but they have a panel of inhabitants, and every time they want to start a new project, they consult this panel of inhabitants just to see if there is a need, and if there will be some kind of involvement of the inhabitants in the implementation of this project. So some questions still remain. First, and also it was said before, the equity of access to new technologies. As you know, elderly people our societies are more and more old, and we will have more and more elderly people, and it's true that elderly people have more difficulties to appropriate these new technologies than young people. Also, you have social inequalities, because some services which were free will certainly, we will have to pay for them, and so what for the people who don't have the money for, or who cannot pay for these new services, so you can have social problems. And also cultural and education problems, because in France we have a lot of foreign people who don't speak French or English, and if you don't speak these languages, sometimes it's quite difficult to have access to these new technologies. So the second question which remains is how do you come from experimentation to a wider implementation? With the investment for the future program, we have had a lot of money, public money, to start the project and to invest in the project, but then how do you generalize the project? How can you go on the project? So it raises the question of what is the business model behind that, a question which is not solved, I think. And also how to solve legal and institutional barriers, which are very important in France, because when you have an experimental project, you can get rid of all these barriers. But as soon as it becomes traditional, I would say, project, then you are facing all these problems. So these are really questions that we have to solve. And the last question which remains is how to make traditional work practice change. French people are very conservative, and it will, of course, it will change, but it will take time. And the question is how we can adjust the time of the implementation of technology with the time of the practice, of the change of practice, work practice. So just I will leave the last word to Saskia Sassen, who is an American sociologist and who gave a very interesting presentation in a meeting 1 year ago in Marseille, and she said the key is to urbanize technologies rather than to use technologies that de-urbanize the city. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention.
We have time for one question.
It was very interesting. For the wider implementation, do you think that the ministry will have to support it, or do you think that the cities and industry could do that by themselves?
Our ministry, but also I think we are very, we have the money, we have the financial channels to support the experimentation and demonstration projects. The problem is that when you implement for the generalization of project, we can help, for instance, through the trying to improve the legal framework, for instance, or trying to help through training or this kind of actions. But in terms of financing, I think that we have to find, I mean, they have to find a sort of business model to have all these projects working, being implemented widely. And this question, and I think it was said by many persons here, but this question of the business model and is really, for me, one of the main questions which still is not responded at the present time. Okay.